Hi there and welcome to today's vlog. Thanks so much for joining me. Yesterday Sue and I had the great privilege and honour really to attend the funeral of the Reverend Richard Plant. I talked about Richard in a previous vlog when Sue and I arrived in Doncaster 20 years ago, when I became minister of Priory Place Methodist Church in the town centre. Richard and his wife Anne were part of that church family and immediately welcomed us. They invited us round for a meal, and we've really appreciated over the years their support, encouragement, their love shown to us and to our family. And Richard and Anne were those kind of people who always looking out for someone who might be lost or lonely or there for the first time, and many people over the years have enjoyed their gracious and kind hospitality. So it was Richard's funeral yesterday. He lived a good life. He was 92 years old when he died, and I'm sure that over the years he touched, influenced, blessed the lives of countless numbers of people. It was a privilege to be there yesterday because, of course, we live in this strange time of coronavirus, and therefore attendances at funeral services are quite restricted. So it was at the local crematorium, and most of the people there were family members, but there were a few who'd been invited who were close friends, and Sue and I felt tremendously honoured and privileged to be invited, and I was asked to say a prayer in the service. The service was actually live streamed, so many people who couldn't actually physically be there were able to watch it on their devices. There were others who came along and actually stood outside and listened to the words that were spoken as they stood and just came to pay their own respects and appreciation to Richard's life. And it was a wonderful service. Richard's son Stephen led the service, and he gave the eulogy. He spoke very movingly, with humour, and gave a wonderful portrait of his father. It was something that I'm full of admiration to Stephen for being able to do that. I could never have done that. In fact, when it was my dad's funeral many years ago, I couldn't even sing the hymns. I was so overcome with emotion. But Stephen spoke really well, led the service, and a number of Richard's grandchildren also made contribution, either doing a Bible reading or sharing a little bit of their own experience and thoughts, reflections on Richard's life. And it's clear that he was a great granddad. And he was a man full of fun, and there's so many great anecdotes. Richard was a man who really reflected the love of Christ for all people, wanting to draw people into deep relationship with God through Jesus, to reflect that love of Jesus for all people. And it's interesting, Stephen mentioned that in one particular church where he served, when it came to the time when it was the church was reflecting on whether to re-invite Richard now to stay further in their church and their circuit, one person was a bit anti Richard and apparently said, well, yes, the church has grown during your time here, but it's grown with the wrong sort of people. And isn't that really sad? It could be humorous if it wasn't so seriously sad and disappointing. But I found that the attitude myself at times, when we have that feeling, we need the church filling more people, but they have to be the right kind of people. That is so un-Christ-like, isn't it? The one who welcomed all, and Richard really reflected that. So there's so many great memories and incidents of Richard's life. He was a man of immense kindness, of love, of generosity, of giving of himself. He was very self-deprecating, a humble man, and yet countless numbers have reason to give thanks for his life. And I just want to finish by sharing one further reflection on yesterday, and that is we renewed acquaintance with a young man called Edward. Edward is from Ghana. He arrived in Doncaster a little bit before we left Doncaster to move to Leicester, and he's got a Methodist background there in Ghana, so he sought out the local Methodist church and started coming to Priory where I was minister. We didn't know him all that well, but he's been going along during the years we've been in Leicester, those 8 years, and so we were able to renew acquaintances with him. He was at the service. He was one of those many who have been embraced by Richard and Anne, have been blessed by and shared in their hospitality and their love and kindness. And I know he's visited Richard and Anne many times through the years, and tremendously values the love and the welcome that they've offered to him. And he and I and Sue were sat on a table at the refreshments that were served after the funeral service, and as we sat talking about various things, we were also talking about our own memories and reflections of Richard and the kindness that he has shown to us. And Edward said that he'd visited Richard and Anne over the years, and most recently when he visited, I'm not quite sure when that was, but it must have been fairly recently, as Richard was becoming more frail physically and mentally. They were sat talking, and Richard said to Edward, I'll be going home soon. Now, to some people that would be strange, because Richard was sat in his own home at the time, but of course Richard was talking about his heavenly home. And there was no fear in Richard. He knew perfectly well his eternal destiny, because his faith was firmly in the Lord Jesus Christ. And to be able to say that when you know that your earthly life is drawing to a close, to say to somebody with great confidence and faith and assurance, I'm going home soon, wasn't that a wonderful thing? Paul, writing to the Philippians, the Apostle Paul, writes this: our citizenship is in heaven. And when we see death in that context, it's not such a scary thing, is it? Because we know if our faith is placed in Jesus Christ, if our trust is in him, if we seek to serve and follow him, then death is not the end. It's a doorway into a new life, a fullness of life. And so we mark the end of his earthly life, his death, but it's not the end of the story. It's just the end of a chapter. And now a new chapter begins. Richard is in the very presence of God, in the love of Christ, in that place where there is no more crying or tears or mourning or sadness. And so, yes, we are sad because someone we loved is no longer with us, but we rejoice that we know Richard is in that home for which to which he looked forward to so much. So we give thanks for a life well lived. What an example he set, what a great man. And I pray for God's blessing upon his family, whom he loved so much and meant so much to him, as indeed he meant to them. So God bless you. Thank you so much for listening.